What it do? Sports Betting Nation, Ace is high here with you. I'm back. The man's back in the seat, and I got the man, the myth, the legend, Hardways Mike sitting next to me, proverbially in the other hot seat. How you doing, Mr. Hardways?
I'm doing great. And he says, well, I don't know. I don't know if you pulled yourself away from the computer and the lines today to look outside, but it is a miserable rainy day here in Chicago. So I'm not sure what I like more, whether this rain here in the Chicagoland area or the heat when I was in Arizona last week doing some scouting for SBI Nation.
Yeah, I don't know which one I like more. I guess the rain, because that heat gets me, although the humidity that comes with the rain, and that can influence baseball too. Is that something you're looking at in baseball lines ever?
100%. The weather is a huge factor when it comes to baseball, not just when it comes to how pitchers perform in certain elemental conditions, but whether or not games are going to be played. Even with a lot of stadiums, you have run the risk of a game getting delayed. Cincinnati seems to be the one that they delay a lot of games, and you got to make sure you pay attention to how books determine whether or not a bet is going to stand if a game gets delayed before it even starts, or if it's delayed midway through, and what your bets mean, and if a game gets called after the fifth inning, and so on and so forth. So just make sure if you're betting baseball and you're arbitraging baseball that you are aware of the house rules on certain things, and you might even want to avoid certain games if the weather looks iffy because of that.
Yeah, if you got those big bonus bets, try not to use them on baseball if you can, because the game gets canceled. You might lose your bonus bet. It raining around here, though, I will say, we'll probably jump into MLB. I'll let you run the show since you had a little bit of a time off last week. I'll let you run the show, but I want to say that the Cubs and Sox both do not play today. So around here in Chicago, baseball, weather, not a worry.
Not a concern for us today. They do pick up again tomorrow. They play it's either a 2 or 3 game series, a 2-game series, it looks like. Cubs and White Sox. We've got the Crosstown Classic Subway. Which one is it? I think it's the Crosstown Classic. The Cubs and the White Sox are playing at Wrigley tomorrow at 7:00, and then on Wednesday at 7:00. So 2-game series, Crosstown Classic for the Cubbies and the White Sox. We're going to be really excited about it. We got the Cardinals today. I do like the Cardinals. We got the Yankees and the Braves, which is exciting. But to wit, did you watch Sunday Night Baseball last night?
My Braves? You were talking about them on the podcast. I didn't watch the game. I saw the score, read the box scores. I am not happy that the Braves lost. I saw that Olsen, I don't know if you bet on him. I know you're big on betting his homers. He came through in the 8th with a 2-run homer. They just couldn't get that other run to tie it up.
No, they scored early in the first. They were up 3-0, and then a complete meltdown in the 5th inning, the bottom of the 5th. The Mets put up, I think, 6 runs there. So they had some work to do. Sean Murphy homered, and then Matt Olson, I did not bet on him to hit a home run yesterday, unfortunately. But now he's leading the league in home runs again. So he was leading the league 2 days ago, and then Shohei hit a home run yesterday. They were tied at 41 again, and then Matt Olson took the lead back. So as a Matt Olson regular season home run leaders ticket holder, I was pretty happy to see that. But yeah, the Braves could not get it done there in the 9th inning, unfortunately.
Well, now they hop over and they're playing the Yankees today. I'm not sure if you saw the opening on that, but they had the Braves minus 250, the opening line on that, with Fried on the mound, who hasn't been, he's been pitching well with a 3-1 record, but since he got injured a couple years back, before that injury, he was a stud, let me tell you. He got injured, it's kind of slowed him down a bit, but still, minus 250. If you look at the lines today, some money's coming in on the Yankees because the Braves are down to minus 210 now, with the Yankees opening plus 205. Best line right now for the Yankees, plus 180 on DraftKings.
That is something. I bet down considerably then, it looks like. I will say the baseball's a weird sport, right? The Braves beat the Mets by 18 runs the other day. I mean, the Braves put up 8 runs in the 9th inning, and they were beating the Mets so badly they didn't even bother with a pitcher, and they put a position player in to close it out. And it's a weird sport because the Cubs took 2 of the 3 against the Braves in the series before, and the Cubs lost 2 of the 3 to the Mets, and the Mets were not able to come close to beating the Braves, and then the Mets beat the Braves. So yeah, baseball, as we've talked about on this podcast many, many times, it is a sport where any team can win any given day. You got 162 games. Right now, that line looks under 200. It doesn't look terribly bad, realistically. Are you back in the Braves today?
No, I'm not sure where you're seeing it minus 200, but I don't like to bet below. If I'm getting, shorter than minus 200, I'm not usually backing a team. I do like the fact that it opened at minus 250 because, the line originators are thinking the Braves are just going to take this one away. You get a little better now, but I just have that kind of hard rule of shorter than minus 200. I don't take it. And right now I'm seeing best line minus 210 on Caesars.
No, you're right. I'm sorry. I apologize to the fans about that. I was in my head. I had switched over to another screen and I had 180 in my mind for the Yankees line. I transitioned that to the Braves line, but you're right. Minus 210 is the best line. You can get that at Caesars, PointsBet, BetMGM, Bat River. So it's a pretty good consensus across the board for the Braves. Yankees, if you do want to back them, plus 180. And that's tough to wrap your head around. I mean, the Yankees have not been great this year, and Judge is back, and he's certainly brought a little spark to the offense. But that opened at 205, now down to 180. They got Clark Schmidt on the mound. Not a bad season, 8-6 record, 4.23 ERA. I'm probably just going to stay away from that game altogether. Any other games that you are looking at today? It's a small slate. I think we only have 9 games today.
Yeah, we are. As I mentioned, neither one of the Chicago teams are playing, so we can't look at the Cubbies. You can't look at your Sox. I mean, looking at the Cardinals game, it's a line that really hasn't moved since the open on the Cardinals side, especially. We got McCullers on the mound, minus 215 for the Cardinals. They can't, the lines makers are not going to give any respect to this Oakland Athletics team. JP Sears on the mound for the Athletics hasn't been pitching well this year, sporting a 2-9 record, home runs per 9, almost at a 2 mark. We're at 1.8. Let's just round it up. Hits per 9 at 8. I mean, you want to back these guys, you're going to get some money in your pocket. Best line right now, plus 194 on FanDuel Sportsbook. I'm not saying that I'm going to bet the Athletics in this one, but we just talked about how any day, any baseball team can win a game. I believe in football, they call it any given Sunday. In baseball, it's any given day because we play all the days of the week. I think I might jump on the Athletics just because of that plus 194 number, opening at plus 180. We're getting a little better than the line originators thought. That's what I'm probably going to put down. Not that I'm saying the Athletics are going to win this 50% of the time. I just think that plus 194, let's round it up to plus 200. I think that's a good number, winning 33% of the time.
Yeah, and it's not like the Cardinals are world beaters this year, right? 52-66. They got McCullers on the mound. It's decent, 6-8 season with 4.20 ERA. But it's not like he's their ace and shutting everybody down. So for me, I think a lot of it is just the public perception about the Aces. It's kind of a joke of a franchise these days. 33-85 record. Did you see our social media post from Saturday? It was a post about the Oakland A's pitcher who made a great stab to catch a comebacker to the mound and then basically trotted over to first base while the runner was running it out and did not throw the ball or tag. He just kind of had a brain fart and the runner was safe. It's like the most Oakland A's play of all time. So maybe some of the public perception of the A's just being this joke of a franchise is coming into it, but plus 194 is not bad there.
Yeah, just you mentioned it before. Any team can win any game. Other than that, I'm not looking at anything to bet today, to be honest with you, on baseball. I am watching that Rays Giants line to see if it moves. That's the late game for today. The reason I'm watching is because the Rays have Glass now on the mound. I think he's a good pitcher. I think if you can get that line to keep dropping, it opened minus 142, now at minus 134. You get it down to that minus 120 number, probably jumping on the Rays. I don't know that it's going to get there. And I think something to note, it's really easy to see over here on sportsbettingindel.com on our MLB Today page. We're seeing a lot of open lines coming on FanDuel. We're seeing FanDuel beat DraftKings out of the gate with these lines. I don't know if you noticed that today.
I didn't notice that. I wonder why that is. A lot of times you can get it kind of a coin flip about what book is going to have the best lines, right? They all seem to have different models for different pitchers, different stadiums, different matchups. But DraftKings coming in, it looks like, you go through the MLB Today page and it's a lot of green. And that green is that DraftKings logo, right? That light green there. Yeah, it looks like they've got the best lines on a lot. Now, PointsBet is kind of popping up on a couple of games in particular, and then FanDuel. But yeah, we are pulling a lot of DraftKings as the favorable lines. I'll tell you one thing that I'm keeping an eye on, and that's that Angels line. That the Rangers are trotting out Scherzer on the mound today. Right now, it opened at minus 175. Minus 180 is the line for the Rangers. The Angels are bringing out Patrick Sandoval. Not a bad season for him. 6-8 record, 3.86 ERA. So he's a pretty decent pitcher. You can get them. They open at plus 145. It's plus 158 now. If I can get that Rangers line down a few points to that minus 165 number, I'll probably throw something on the Rangers there. I'm not sure if it's going to come in. I'm going to have to keep a watch on it right up until first pitch to see if any sharp money comes in one way or the other. But yeah, that Rangers line is one that I am definitely going to be watching up until that game starts. That'll be an exciting game. The reason I'm not going to put any money on it for sure. I'm not going to bet against Scherzer, and I'm not going to bet against Sandoval, so I just will stay away from the game. That's our advantage of us as a sports bettor. If that's our opinion, which, it's mine. Everyone has different opinions. You can just stay away from it. You don't have to bet it. So I'll stay away from that one. But it is going to be a very exciting game. Rangers obviously in the hunt. Angels in the hunt still. So good baseball game. For sure. And that's a really good point, Aces, is that if there's not something that you think you have an edge on, don't force it, right? Don't try to make bets for the sake of making bets unless you've got funny money that you're willing to lose and you want to throw some parlays out there or whatever it is, you want to have a little fun. But if you're actually in this to make money and to be profitable long-term, don't force bets that you don't believe are positive expected value. In the long run, you're going to lose money and it's not going to be you're not going to have a good time. Realistically, it's a small slate today. If something's not popping up and you don't like it, you are welcome to walk away. Tell you what, there'll be 15 games tomorrow that you are more than welcome to bet on. Am I right?
And some dingers, baby.
Dinger Tuesday is coming up. So keep an eye on our social media. We'll have, as usual, our Excel spreadsheet that you'll be able to download for free to download player props for Tuesday. We'll have the top 20 home run hitter lines. We'll have the top 20 long shot lines. I know some people like taking long shots. I myself have taken a few plus 1,000 long shots. But yeah, we've got a full slate tomorrow. We've got baseball coming up the rest of this week. Our series spotlight this week will be the Red Sox and the Yankees. Neither team is really performing terribly well. In fact, I believe the Yankees are now pulling up the bottom of the AL East, but the Yankees are still over 500. So keep that in mind. The Yankees are 60-58. The Red Sox are 62-56. Of course, we got to cover the Red Sox and the Yankees on our series spotlight. They're both well out of first place in that division, with the Orioles leading and the Rays nipping at their heels. And consider this, if you look at the AL Central, every team there is under 500 except for the Twins. So a couple of weird divisions there. But yes, we'll be on the Red Sox and the Yankees. Any other games, any other series this week that you have spotted or you're keeping an eye on as we come towards the middle or later in the week?
No, but I will say I'm going to call you out on something. Yesterday, Sunday's podcast episode, I encourage everyone to check it out. Mr. Hardways over there put my Braves in the AL East. They're not from the AL East, my friend. I know it was a tongue slip by you, but still, how dare you disgrace my boys and say they are from the inferior American League when in fact they are from the better National League, which we all know.
Good catch on that. Good catch on that. Probably we'll chalk it up to jet lag coming home from Arizona earlier in the week. So just to close out a few other sports from the weekend, we had the FedEx St. Jude Championship. I know that you had Woj on the podcast early in the week last week to talk about it. We were really thrilled to hear that over at the SBI offices. We had a playoff between Patrick Cantlay and Lucas Glover. Lucas Glover ends up winning that with a score of 1,500. Good for him. Rory McIlroy and Tommy Fleetwood tied in third. I had a little money on Tommy Fleetwood later in the week. Couldn't get it done, unfortunately. You had Moore, Henley, Spieth was in the mix, Homa, Connors, Schenk, Im. So a lot of guys there right at the top, but good for Lucas Glover to close that out. Of course, we had NFL football is back. We had the week 1 of the preseason, which was, if you watched the preseason, I know you don't, Aces, but for the people out there that do, we always say, oh, preseason is a joke. It's so low scoring. Take the over in every game. Well, I'll tell you what, this year, the overs have come in non-stop. We've got scores of 26-24, 34-17, 28-23, 23-19, 27-7. The overs, these over-unders for these preseason games will tick in around 32, 33, 34. The over-unders, in fact, the Bears won yesterday, 23-17. So good for the Bears. We have NFL season starting very quickly. And then also, Aces, what's in your wheelhouse? College football is now, we are counting down 11 days away. Is that correct?
Oh, I'm so excited. I mean, Notre Dame coming to play some football. It's not in the United States, which disappoints me a little bit, but still, the excitement overwhelms that disappointment. Plus, over here at Sports Betting Intel, we got some great tools lined up for the college football season. So I couldn't be more ecstatic. And a little birdie told me you joined the College Football Rundown podcast over there for their season conference previews.
I was going to bring that up at the end of the podcast, but yes, I have been invited back to the College Football and Rundown podcast to talk preseason college or conference totals for both the Pac-12 and the SEC. So I am excited about that. It allows me to kind of dig my teeth in and get my juices flowing on the two of the big 3 conferences that I really enjoy following. So especially the SEC and the Pac-12. You know me, I like offense and I like scoring. So might have a little surprise on the podcast talking about some of these conference win totals. So you'll see that come out later this week. Just to kind of put a bow on this, Notre Dame and Navy is the first game of the season. That's on Saturday, August 26th at 1:30 p.m. It will be on NBC. No question about that. Right now, Notre Dame minus 20.5, over under of 50.5. Is there anything tennis related that you're watching, Aces? I know that we had talked previously about the Open coming up, and that's later this month, I believe. Any other big tournaments right now that you're watching?
We were watching the highlights from a warm-up tournament. Unfortunately, the name is escaping. It was in Canada. I'm not sure what tournament it was, but Pagula was going up against Swiatek in the championship. I don't know if you saw this. It was all over social media. I know you're pretty big on the sports social media. In the middle of their point, the stadium music started blasting Cotton Eye Joe. And it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. But in answer to your question, I've been watching a little bit of the highlights, haven't been watching the tournaments real in depth, waiting for that US Open, which starts August 28th. I want to say in 2 weeks it starts, I believe. But if anyone has the time, check out what I'm talking about. It was a Canadian some tournament in Canada, a warm up for the US Open on hard. But in the middle of their play, in the middle of their point, 3 or 4 hits in, rallies in, Hot and I Joe started playing. It was hilarious.
That might be somebody's ringtone that just got broadcast over the loudspeaker. That is bizarre. If you do me a favor, send that to me. I'll have our social media post that everybody can find that online. I do want to mention we are pulling lines for international soccer again. We have soccer, all sorts of leagues have started up. Most importantly, match day 1 started for the English Premier League. We got one more game this afternoon, Manchester United and Wolverhampton Wanderers, and then we'll of course be pulling lines. We got match day 2 next weekend, so keep an eye on the international soccer SBI lines. We've got a ton of stuff going on, and then I want to close it out talking about the Women's World Cup. The bracket is coming to a close. France ends up losing to Australia in penalty kicks. It was a surprising result, no doubt about that. France was one of the favorites. So Australia will take on England on Wednesday morning at 5 o'clock a.m. Central Time. England end up beating Colombia. On the other side of the bracket, Sweden beats Japan 2-1, and Spain beats the Netherlands 2-1. So you've got Spain and Sweden at 3 o'clock in the morning. Tomorrow morning, 3 a.m. Central Time. I'm going to try to stay up to watch that. And then we'll have a third place game. And then the final will be this coming Sunday for the World Cup. Right now, Spain is the favorite, followed by England, then Australia, and then Sweden. I think that's going to be it for us today. Anything you want to leave the people with? I do want to give them a plus EV bet for later in the year if you're interested in that. But anything you want to leave the people with, Aces?
Well, I'm going to surprise you a little bit. I hope you're sitting down for this. You mentioned, and the reason is I talked to the madman Woj last week, and he gave me a lot of intel, but I was looking over the lines for that St. Jude Classic golf. And one of the lines that struck out, it stood out at me, I should say, was the championship, or I'm not sure what they call it. Do they call the Sunday play a championship?
The playoff.
Well, that's what I was getting at. It was to go to a playoff plus 400. Was the odds you got to go to a playoff. And that was on DraftKings. I remember seeing that as I was looking through the lines with the madman Woj. And I was thinking in my head, like, that's not a very great number, in my opinion, to go to a playoff. I don't know how often it happens, but the number just stood out to me, plus 400 to go to a playoff. And then you just mentioned, I didn't watch any of it. It's golf, right? So I'm not watching it. But you just mentioned it did go to a playoff. So that really interests me. I'm going to do a little bit of looking into that. I'm going to talk to the madman Woj, see what he thinks about it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if we can look into historically how often playoffs happen. Now, of course, it's going to be course dependent and tournament dependent, but that's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up. I did forget to mention, and it's certainly important that we do mention, we have the BMW Championship coming up this Sunday. As I've said in the podcast before, it's kind of like the 5th major to a lot of people. It's at Olympia Fields here in Illinois. It's the 17th through the 20th. We're going to have a lot of the big contenders playing in this one. Should be a good event. We'll be covering it, no doubt, on the podcast and our social media. So we'll make sure to, I'll be texting you personally, Aces, to make sure that give you updates day by day, Thursday through Sunday, because I know you're really into that. But let's close it out with this. We have later in the season, we've got a Sunday, September 10th. So it's week 1 for the NFL. We've got the Carolina Panthers versus the Atlanta Falcons in the NFC South. Panthers money line at plus 160 is a plus 1.56% positive expected value bet. Now, this is a longer term bet, so you might not want to make this bet. I'm just bringing it to your attention. We are pulling lines for NFL week 1. So if there's something that catches your eye, if you find a nice plus expected value bet, don't be afraid to get it in and lock it in early. But just be aware that go over to our Plus EV scanner and find plenty of lines for, I can find the Tennessee Titans money line, for example. Plenty of opportunity to bet there. That'll be it for us. Again, Aces, it's always a pleasure on this Monday. We'll be back Dinger Tuesday. Give the people what they want, right? Dingers.
Give the people what they want.
As we say over here at SBI, you don't always have to bet, but when you do, wager wisely.